This is the Church of St. Paul in the Desert.
In the name of God, amen. We have two healing stories this morning. Naaman, the general, the one in charge, the one with power, and the story of the leper in the gospel reading. Now, the story in 1 Kings is one of those classic stories, and it's one that is just priceless in many regards. First of all, Naaman has read all the press and believes it about how important he is. And he makes that abundantly clear as he enters and is told about how he will be cured and healed. However, when he gets to Elisha and to the king of Israel, and that episode happens, and Aram is present-day Syria, and as we know, there is no love lost between the Syrians and the Israeli, and it goes back a long time. So there's that little piece in there to begin with. But Naaman is clear that it really ought to happen with great gusto and fanfare and trumpets and horns and all kinds of, aggrandizement. And because he has this expectation, he's an important guy, and it really ought to happen that way. And when it doesn't, he throws what I would refer to as a bit of a hissy fit. He's not happy. All I have to do is go wash. Why aren't my rivers in Syria better than the Jordan, for heaven's sakes? We're a powerful nation. And his wife's slave, who is an Israeli, who knows a person from Israel, says, just do what they say. Don't try to go overboard. Just do what they say. Go wash 7 times. And he does. And he is cleansed, and his skin becomes that of a young boy. And the rest is history, as they say. But there is this humanity in this exchange that just stands out. But then we have the encounter of the leper with Jesus. He's heard about this Jesus, and so he goes to him and says, if you choose, you can make me clean. And Jesus says, I choose. And he touches him, and he is made clean. Choices. We all have choices to make in our lives. The choice is to step forward. The choice is to say yes or no. Choices at every turn. Leprosy in first century Palestine was somewhat akin to the AIDS epidemic of our own day. The person with AIDS was told that they must, and according to the Levitical law, it was rather clear. You announce what you have, you make sure that people move away from you, you announce that you are unclean, and you are isolated from the community, set apart. But you must announce that you are unclean. And so he had done as he was told. But in our own time, choices we make. The AIDS epidemic, now 30-odd years. Andrew made a choice a long time ago, as some of us did, that it was about inclusion and not exclusion. There were many in the church who said exclusion was the way to handle these people or those people, as the case may be. Thank God for the folk like Andrew who said, no, They are a part of this community. They are a part of who we are. They are of us, our humanity, and they are to be included. But the point for the leper in our story was that he was excluded, moved apart, set back. And so it remains in our own day and time that there are still those who are set apart, excluded, not included. It may be because of disability. It may be because of the color of one's skin. It may be because of an ethnic background. It may be because you're female. It may be because of your sexual orientation. And we all make choices. Do we include or do we exclude? Do we reach out and touch the other? What Jesus did when he touched the leper was to make himself unclean, to set himself apart. But Jesus did that again and again and again. He reached out and touched and included, invited in the one who had been excluded. And our calling as baptized Christians is to do likewise, to not exclude, but to include, to invite into community, to touch the one who is sick or lonely or cast off. We've learned in recent years the importance of human touch. I now say I'm a hugger before I generally hug people, but there are those who find that offensive, but I am a hugger. But human touch is important. The research has been done. Children in orphanages in places like Romania, when that regime fell, and they discovered children who didn't know how to be in relationship because there had been no human contact. We know the importance of human touch. Jesus invites us to reach out, to include, to touch the ones who have been excluded. We are called to do likewise. How often it is we stand apart. But the choice remains ours. What do we do? Step forward and say yes, or hang back and say no? Do we touch the other and include them in community, or do we push them to the outside because they don't look like us, they don't act like us? Any of those kinds of things that we do, intentionally or unintentionally. We do them sometimes self-consciously or unknowing to ourselves. There are times when I hear jokes that people tell me or send me on the internet that put down a particular ethnic group or nationality. I find it offensive. I find it offensive. We make choices. We can either choose to include or we choose to exclude by the choices we make. This story today is a story about us. The choices that have been made or the choices that have not been made. The other part is that it gives us a glimpse of Jesus and his humanity. We do really well with Jesus, the divine Son of God. We have a little more trouble in dealing with Jesus, the human being. He gets annoyed. Reread that last verse. He tells him sternly to go away and go to the priest. And don't tell anyone. But he is annoyed. He's more than annoyed. The Greek makes it very clear that he's much more than annoyed. He's angry. Because at some level, his cover has been blown. He cannot do what he would like to do, nor can he go around as he used to go around. And he knows that there will be a price to pay, not only for himself, but for this leper. Because you see, the priests were the only ones who were supposed to do the healing and the curing. God forbid anybody else could do that. There was a system and a hierarchy. And he knew the rules. And so the leper would also pay a price. But the invitation remains for us to choose. Do we choose to step forward or to hang back? God comes in weakness. The expectation of the people of Israel that God would send a Messiah who would come in on the charger and change everything, or establish as it had always been. Is it rules and regulations or the power of God's love? I believe it to be the power of God's love, infinite and beyond our ability to comprehend. But God comes in weakness, because this is where we, vulnerable, fragile children of dust, live. And he comes to us in simple things, in bread and wine and touch. Amen.